I'm going to work with this letter K, and then I'm going to show you how to fill the text. So this letter just doesn't feel like it's got the right strength to it. That K just feels, even though it's the same height as the other letters, it just feels really small to me. So I'm going to enlarge it a little more. Just that much more. It feels to me like it's a little more balanced. And then I'm looking at the negative space between the text. So maybe this word, the W in walk, could be a little tighter, and maybe this exclamation point could be a little bit larger. And I'm nudging that over with the arrow keys on my keyboard. So if I want to fill the text in, it's filling the thick shadow in, and I want this to be filled with a color and then shadowed with the black or another color. So here's what I'll do. I'm going to come over to my layers panel and add a new layer and move that layer underneath the text and lock the actual text layer for now. And select this new underlayer. Probably the quickest way to do this is to use the blob tool. So I'm going to find the blob tool. And we have the shape builder, we have the live paint, we have the blob. Where are you, blob tool? Blob brush. There it is, the blob brush. And then I'll select my color for my text, fill, and I'll just start with red. And this is kind of a small brush, but it is painting on the correct layer. So I'll increase the size of the brush using the right bracket key on my keyboard. And as I'm filling this in, you can see it's actually painting underneath the layer that is showing. And it's doing a nice job, in fact, at that. What is actually on this layer that I'm painting is not as nice looking as this W looks with the black around it. I'll show you that in a second. But it's creating a shape that's one solid piece, and that's easy and fast to create without having to perfectly draw that W. And that's what I painted. And that's what it looks like. And you could also put a gradient in there. So I'm selecting that shape, and because this layer above it is locked, I can go to the gradient tool and create a gradient. Let's try that again without closing the panel. And I'll click on the ramp, and it's giving me a black and white gradient. And I'll change the color chips to red and orange. And then using the gradient tool from the palette, from the tools menu, from the tools, I will click and drag to create the direction I want the gradient to go in. So that whole procedure again is I'm going to check the layer. It's the right layer. I'm going to use my blob brush again. And this time, interesting to note, when I start to paint this, it's actually painting a gradient, which is so weird. Because that's the last color I used, it's actually using the gradient instead of a solid. So as I develop this odd shape that's going on the layer underneath the text, it's filling with my gradient as I go. Kind of cool.